I've been struggling to make ends meet lately. My day job is with a small company still finding its footing in a competitive field. I was due a raise, but that disappeared like a whisper in the wind when we lost out on a massive account last week. An account that would have made us a significant player in the field. After the loss, the company instituted an immediate pay freeze. Let's just say I wasn't surprised at the timing. Worse, my actor/waiter roommate decided they could no longer afford to live in Los Angeles. They finally did what they long promised they'd never do, move back home. With no immediate people to replace them and rent due at the end of the month, I was stuck paying the entire bill. They apologized and shed tears but had no extra cash to help. 10 hours later, they were a ghost. While I stared blankly at the now empty bedroom, a horrid thought crossed my mind. I was going to have to find a new roommate, and soon. The idea of going through the arduous process of finding someone to live with made me feel physically ill. Half the people who applied were psychotic strivers hell-bent on world domination or, failing that, control of the shared TV. The others were so festooned with red flags they looked like a walking bag of blood. King Arthur had an easier time pulling Excalibur from the stone than I did finding a non-psycho roommate in a city determined to keep cranking out and attracting weirdos. As a result of my money crunch, I turned to Tasker. Tasker is an app where people hire you to do odd jobs for cash. The number of shelves I've installed for people is in the hundreds. I've also walked dogs, cut grass, pulled up garbage cans, and cleaned out garages. Each time I clicked on the little T logo on my phone, I aided the never-ending battle with my landlord. While the Tasker jobs helped close the gap, I was still short. The first of the month was fast approaching, and it gave me hives. I sold DVDs and Blu-rays, at a loss. I sold blood and plasma. I inquired about selling sperm but was told, thanks but no thanks, which wounded my pride more than I thought it would. I started daydreaming about bank security systems and wondering if I could get away with a robbery if I really had to. But my dreams of larceny would soon take a back seat when I heard the melodic chime from the Tasker app. It had recommended a job I might be interested in. I wasn't going to respond right away, but my curiosity got the best of me. My jaw dropped. It was a house-sitting job in Beverly Hills, and the pay was more than I'd earn on my regular paychecks. The amount of money could not only seal the gap, but it would buy me time to find a decent roommate. Suddenly, the day looked brighter. I had to win over the homeowner first. Her name was Marcia, and before she agreed to give me access to her multi-million-dollar property, we'd have to meet in person. If we hit it off, my rent was as good as paid. Marcia was in her late 60s and had allowed herself to age gracefully, unlike the rest of Southern California. The corners of her radiant, almost hypnotic, blue eyes crinkled when she smiled. Her hair had been a starless sky black in her younger days but was now streaked with white comets. Though age had stooped her shoulders some, she held her head gracefully high as she whisked me into each room of her mansion. Every time she presented a room, it was as if she was reading a museum exhibit plaque. She was quick with a joke, and her calm, soothing voice made me feel like I'd known her for years. Marcia impressed me. So did the house. She told me that this whole area was originally a rancho occupied by the Kia family. The Kias had owned and worked the land for decades. Their hard work paid off, and they became quite wealthy. Then, the Mexican-American War broke out. Before the ink dried on the unfair Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, white settlers started crossing the continent. According to Marcia, the Kias' claim to their ranch was not honored by the United States, and they were violently forced off their land. They did not go quietly. Blood was spilled by both sides, but, in the end, the surviving Kia family fled. Nobody knows precisely what happened to them, but legends persist. Some say they left for the protective bosom of Mexico City. Others say they moved north and changed their names. The most disturbing of the tales was that the family was ambushed during the night and murdered in their home. The bodies were torn apart and scattered across the land. Regardless, their removal was not pleasant. Except for the main house, which still stood like a crypt in the backyard, the entire Kia ranch was torn down. Overnight, the family had been stripped of their humanity and, if the harsher stories are to be believed, their lives. After hundreds of years of ownership, all that remained of the Kia family was the small River Rock house and rumors of their demise. "That's horrific," I said when Marcia pointed out the house from the back patio. It was. Those poor creatures, she said wistfully. Have any survivors ever contacted you or asked for compensation? Heavens no. Even if they did, the house and land have been partitioned and sold dozens of times. They'd have no recourse. I suppose so, I said. But I'm not a monster. I've kept the house standing. I feel like they're still here as long as that house still stands. A testament to the tenacity of the Mexicans, Marcia added in that boomer way of both complimenting and insulting a person's race. Marcia escorted me into the dining room, where an impressive display of treats was laid out. She talked about the other people that had owned the house while she served me finger sandwiches and freshly made lemonade. Finally, she got to the crux of the matter. She needed to go back east to see her ailing mother and needed someone to stay at the house for the week. I could stay in the guest room on the main floor and had free run of the house except for one area, the Kia house. It's not a guest house? I asked. No. It's more of a relic than dwelling at this point. It's the reason I don't like people going in there. I get it, I said. It's nothing personal, dear, Marcia said, even I don't go in there. I'm so afraid it'll collapse if anyone even breathes too hard near it. Not up to code. I joked. Not in the least, she said. Have you ever been in there? Once, a long time ago. Too depressing for my liking. Why not tear it down? Marcia must not have heard me because she turned to me with a grin and asked, Is the pay acceptable for you, John? I wasn't sure if it was enough. It's great, actually. Thank you, I said. Do you need me to do any other little things around here? I hang a mean shelf. Oh no. Just keep an eye on the place, collect the mail, and enjoy yourself. My nephew installed some sort of internet show thing last time he was over. Feel free to watch whatever on there. I never bother. Thank you, I said. My pleasure, she said with a warm smile. She reminded me of my grandma. I have a good feeling about you. I think you're perfect for the job. I felt myself blush and was unsure why. You're nice to say so. I hope I live up to the house's grandeur, I said. I'm sure you will, she said warmly. She handed me her spare keys. If you're taking any trips in the future and need someone to watch the place, I'll be happy to do it. Just text me, and don't even bother with the app. You're sweet. I don't leave often, and I fear the next time will not be under the best circumstances. She leaned in and whispered, My mother is very ill. Sorry to hear that, I said solemnly. Marcia shrugged her shoulders, c'est la vie. The next day, Marcia caught a flight out of LAX, and I moved into the spare bedroom. This room was nearly as big as my apartment, and I could feel jealousy tickle up my spine. I unpacked my meager belongings and decided to give the house a once-over. Marcia had already given me a tour, but it's always different when you have free reign of a strange place. I wasn't planning on snooping, but I did want to get a lay of the land. Marcia didn't have any security system. I found that odd at first, as there were valuables everywhere, but it made sense after getting to know her style. She was old-fashioned and proper, and I wasn't sure if modern security cameras would blend with her decor. But even if thieves broke into the house, I don't think they'd know where to look. The house was reminiscent of the LA sprawl. It just kept going. I sighed. One old lady lived in a place that could easily hold a dozen or so. Didn't seem fair that I had to struggle for a bedroom when Marcia had several she used for storage. After the stroll, I decided to take in the grounds out back. There was an ornate swimming pool with a mosaic tile picture of Botticelli's Birth of Venus on the bottom. Beyond the pool was a beautiful, English-style garden overstuffed with local vegetation. The sheer number of bees pollinating to and fro gave the area a steady buzzing noise. Blossoming cherry trees shaded the dirt path I walked down. They ran along an artificial stream that carried fallen flowers to a drain at the end of the property line. The sun sparkled off the ripening red fruit. In short, everything back here was beautiful. Everything except the Kia house. It sat in a small courtyard just off the back patio. It was surrounded by ancient oaks that cast long shadows over it. Every room on the backside of the house had a door to the patio. From where I was staying, I'd be no more than 20 feet from the structure. I felt myself shudder at that realization, though I didn't know why. The house wasn't ugly. In fact, in any other location and with a realtor's panache, it would be described as cozy and sell above market value. But there was a heavy atmosphere around it. You could feel it in your bones. It was like a storm that was about to drop down enough water to sweep you away. The outside was made of dense river rock and dark timber. There were no windows, at least not anymore. They had been bricked up by previous owners. The door looked like something from an old Scottish castle, not a Mexican ranch house. Knowing Marcia's wealth and taste, I thought there was a chance the door might actually have hailed from the Highlands. I walked around the outside of the house, but I kept my distance. The foreboding made me cautious. I didn't think it was haunted. Ghosts aren't real. But Marcia had suggested that the Kias may have been murdered here. That carried weight with me. The house didn't pass a vibe check, and I decided to leave the relic alone and not come back. No need to stir up bad juju if I didn't need to. I was content to stay within the confines of the big house and waste the week. Sometime after dark, I heard a woman scream in the backyard. Without security cameras to check it out, I went to the window in my room and peeked through the blinds. The backyard was dark, doubly so because of the large shade trees. Save for a line of small solar path lights, the backyard looked like a bottle of ink. I wanted to pretend I hadn't heard it, but my conscience wouldn't let me ignore that yell. I was gonna have to go outside. I'm no shrinking violet. I'm a big guy, and I've been in quite a few scraps in my time. I've also taken Taekwondo for 5 years, so I know a thing or two about disarming a person. I felt confident that I'd be okay if someone was out there. I prayed that wasn't the case but mentally prepared myself to brawl. I opened the door in my room that led to the backyard. As soon as the door swung open, you could feel the summer night heat cling to you. The sounds of nature intermingled with the surrounding city, creating a constant buzz of activity. And, Jesus tap dancing Christ, was it dark? The moon was covered by clouds, and it was hard to see a few feet in front of you. Even with my phone's flashlight, it was impossible to see much. I moved slowly down the path and scanned the phone from right to left and then back again. I figured I'd walk down to the back fence and back. The screaming sounded like it had come from that direction. If someone was out there, attacker or victim, I wagered I'd find them near the path. "Hello," I said, pushing as much bass into my voice as possible. "Do you need help?" There was no immediate response. I repeated my question a few more times but got the same result. I was starting to wonder if the yell had come from a passing car or a neighbor when I heard someone shuffling on the other side of the line of cherry trees. I stopped and turned my phone towards the noise. "Hello." "Hola," I heard a woman say back in a soft, scared voice. "Hola. Necesita ayuda?" I asked, not sure if my high school Spanish held up. There was no response. "Hola," I said again. "Hola," the soft voice said again. "Eres tu quien gritaba?" She never answered my question about the screaming. After a few seconds, the voice said in a whisper, "Tiberias urta aquí." This time I caught a glimpse of a woman in a white and yellow dress running through the trees. I veered off the path and headed toward where I saw the woman. I assumed I'd be running into someone hiding in the shadows, but after a few minutes of searching, I didn't find a soul. I was stumped. "Why did you tell me to leave?" I asked the air around me. I felt the stinging in my back before I heard the thump against my spine. "What the fuck?" I said, stumbling forward a few steps. I caught my balance before I fell and quickly snapped around, ready to Jackie Chan some fool. But there wasn't anyone standing there. I rubbed my back where I had been hit and winced in pain. There was a welt, and I knew it was already bruising. I pointed my phone at the ground and saw a smooth round rock at my feet. I picked it up and felt the weight. It was hefty. I wondered where it came from when I was nearly blinded by a beam of light that flashed into my eyes. "Hey, what's going on?" asked a gruff male voice. "Can you get the light out of my eyes? Tell me, who are you first?" "I'm the house sitter." "Marcia's gone. Her mom's sick." "Call her to confirm if you want," I said. "Now, before I get permanent damage to my eyes, can you please move the lie?" The light went down to my chest. I blinked but could still see the bright beam in my vision. It'd be a bit before everything went back to normal. "How do you know her?" the man asked. "I don't, really. I was hired by a company." "Who are you?" "Her neighbor," he said. From behind him, I could hear his wife tell him not to tell me his name. "Okay, neighbor, can I help you?" We heard screaming. "Was that you? Are you serious?" "Well, do you know who it was?" "No. I came out here to check, too. I didn't find anyone. Every day, this place gets more like Van Nuys, I swear to God," the guy said. "I live in Van Nuys," I responded. "Oh, ugh, well, there are some nice parts, I'm sure. Do you have security cameras?" Again, his wife chimed in and told him to not tell me anything. I rolled my eyes. "I'm not going to rob you, for God's sake. I'm curious because I heard a woman speaking Spanish back here. Wondering if she was cutting through yards." "I don't think you're going to rob us." "Great," I said. "Did you happen to see a Hispanic woman cross through your yard?" "Not since our housekeeper left," he said, laughing. I didn't join in. He stopped the chuckle. "If you could check your tapes, I'd appreciate it. There's no one back here now, but I want to make sure she's not in trouble or anything. If I see anything, I'll let you know." "Thanks." "Sorry about the light in your eyes," the neighbor said. His wife berated him for showing weakness. I could feel her eye rolls like they were Southern California tremors. "I'll be here all week. If you hear a dude back here, it's me." "Sounds good. Have a good night," he said before disappearing back behind the fence. I heard his wife's angry whispering, and I laughed. I looked down at the rock in my hand, and it clicked. This looked like river rock. Just like the Kia house. I looked up, and sure enough, the house was within my line of sight. Despite the heat, I shivered. I pocketed the rock and headed back inside. My nerves were as jangly as a puppet in the hands of a novice puppeteer. I checked my back and saw a raised welt. Whoever had chucked that rock had done a masterful job. I wasn't sure who had thrown it or where they had gone, but I worried they might return. I suddenly felt the lack of any security system at this place. I decided to do hourly checks of the property and ensure I was still alone. Each time I patrolled, I followed the same route. I walked through the upstairs rooms, the downstairs rooms, and the front yard. I finished my journey in the backyard. I avoided getting too close to the Kia house on every trip. I walked around it but kept my distance. I did the checks 3 times, and nothing was amiss. After the last time, I felt myself relax. I was sure that whoever had been out there wasn't there anymore. I needed to calm down. The best way to do it was with an edible. I settled into the theater room, turned on a mindless action movie, and passed out. Around 3 in the morning, I heard the door to the theater room swing open. It snapped me from my THC-assisted sleep. I wanted to keep the element of surprise on my side, so I didn't move. At first, I wasn't sure someone was even in there, but then I heard the floorboards behind me squeak. The hairs on my neck stood on end. Someone was here.